Hello and welcome to our channel. My name is Jersey and this is Raymond. Today we're going to show you a very simple basic corn mash recipe. This is a very beginner recipe, especially if you want to use a sacrifice run. Let's follow along. In a very large stock pot, add 1.5 to 2.5 gallons of filtered or spring water. Bring it to a boil. You may take the pot off the stove and add 5 pounds of white sugar. You want to stir this very well. Make sure all the sugar is dissolved before adding the corn. Add 5 pounds of cracked corn to the sugar water and stir very well. Add the lid and stir it every half hour for 1 to 2 hours. There is no set time. This is a 5-gallon food grade bucket from Tractor Supply. It is BPA free. What I like about this, the lid has a gasket in it that creates a better seal than a slip-on lid. We're going to be adding an airlock. I have drilled right in the center, but I prefer to drill off to the side, and we will do that now and add a 5/8 rubber grommet. A little tip, I like to put the grommet hole off to the right, so when I carry the handle, my knuckles do not hit the top of the airlock. Currently the temperature is 88 degrees, a little cold for the yeast, but that is not a problem. And if you visit the blog, you can download these. When you sign up for our newsletter, you get 4 to a sheet. It goes through a regular printer. And what it is, we don't like to have our ingredients, and maybe you wouldn't either, so we code our batches. This particular code is an M02. Our other batches, we code them, so we'll always know what's in them. They're in an Excel sheet and also in a notebook. So just say you had 4 or 5 of these along the wall, and some of them were your special grains and you didn't want people to know. Only you know what's in your M02. The bags also seal it. After your batch is over, you just take this out of the holder and put it in your notebook. And this also wraps around the 5-gallon bucket. Right now you could just attach it on it while it was cooling down or mixing, and then when you take it to a 5-gallon bucket, this goes right around it. But it's very important to have your notes, your personal notes, or notes that you did something unique. This time it was cooked in a pot, and next time it might be on a propane stove. It's always important because then you know what works and what doesn't work, and you have documentation if you'd like to ever reproduce it again.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to dump this mash into a 5-gallon wash bucket because it's going to be 170, 180 degrees for hours. We'll put our bucket we just made. I'm adding hot water. To get the sugars and the corn out of the bucket. This is a very important step. We want to get to around 95 to 100 degrees for adding our yeast. So now we had 2.5 gallons plus the corn and the sugar. We still got about 1.5 gallons left. So we're going to use that to adjust our temperature. For the yeast is activated around 95 to 100 degrees, depending on what yeast you're using, whether it's bread yeast, brewer's yeast. So if it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. If it's too cold, the yeast will not activate. Some people take and they put the yeast into a jar with a little bit of sugar water and they activate it prior to putting it in there. We're just going to get it to the temperature and we're going to add it directly to the bucket. Another valuable tool is these flour sack towels. You can get them very cheap and they're invaluable for cleaning and wiping things. So we're going to take a temperature. I'm using an infrared thermometer. It is 95.5, so we're right at our mark. So we're going to just add lukewarm water, about 95 to 100 degree water, and we're going to bring it up to about 1 inch from the top of the bucket. We'll stir it in. It's 96.9, so I'm going to go get some more filtered water that's right around 100 degrees and finish filling it up. For our back, we have the filtered water. The reason we use filtered water is because chlorine has an effect on the way yeast actually works with the grains and the sugars. The water has a lot to do with the quality. We're about 1.25 inches from the top. Our temperature is 99 degrees. Perfect for adding our yeast. But what you would like to do is you need to get a hydrometer and check your reading before you start and add your yeast.
Make sure you stay active. There's a new video coming out, how to use a hydrometer.
We're currently at 1.5. This is a sugar mash that's going to have some corn flavoring. This will be your mash for your first run to clean your still. It's called a sacrifice run. You can drink it and it is very good flavor. If you were trying to get a high alcohol and a high output, you would add another cup or two of sugar water to this mash to get a better quality. But this is to get you started. It's very cheap, very simple for your first run. So right now we have 5 pounds of corn, 5 pounds of sugar, probably 4.5 gallons of water. We're gonna add a yeast. Recommended for this is about 8 grams, equal to 0.25 ounces. I pre-measured it. We're gonna sprinkle it right on top. Just take a look at it. It looks like it's just a nice thin layer over the whole top. It'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to start working. I don't stir it until I get ready to put the airlock and everything on there. I just leave it like this, let it start to foam. We're letting the yeast proof breathe for a minute. One thing I wanted to mention, on these buckets, you'll see a lock seal. It has to be removed so that the lid comes on and off. So just take a second, rip that, and pull it off. Set that on there just lightly right now. Leave it for about 10-15 minutes, come back. It should start to see foaming. This is our grain bill that we talked about earlier. Slide it over the bucket. Put it on there. And we'll come back and put the airlock on in about 10-15 minutes. And we're back. It's been about 30 minutes. Let's see what it looks like. As you can see, it's starting to foam and bubble. You can stir it in one more time, or you can just put the lid on. So we're gonna go ahead and put the lid on. Usually it takes 10 to 15 minutes. It's actually cold in the blogging room. It's actually 62 in here. So it took like a half hour to start getting to where we are. We'll take a temperature reading. It's 85.7 degrees. Perfect. We're gonna snap the lid down.
Check out our playlist to know how to properly use an airlock.
Once you have a good seal in there, we're gonna insert an airlock. Airlock was filled up to the marks, minimum max. We used water. Normally I use some finished product to keep bacteria from growing in it. But you don't want to get it too far down, because what'll happen is the wash will start rising up the tube and foam out. So it's inserted firmly. We have our label filled out. Make sure it's attached to the bucket. Set it in about a 75-degree room. We set it in a laundry room or closet or something in the house, and it should start bubbling 15 minutes. It'll be 5 to 10 days. It'll stop bubbling. I stir once every 24 hours just to stir the corn and aerate it a little bit. Every morning when I get up, I stir it. It's too deep. You can see it starting already right here. See it? So we gotta come up a little higher. Right now it just already started bubbling. It's only been like a minute. As the yeast starts to work, you're gonna hear it get faster and faster, and it'll do it for about 2-3 days, and then it'll start slowing to every couple minutes. And then after about 5 days to 7 days, it should come to a stop. At that time, you can check your alcohol in there, and it should read 0.9 on the scale.
It only has been around 10 minutes. See where the lid is already starting to bulge? That's good. Eventually this whole lid will rise up and be tall. That's what you want, to build up pressure, and it releases through the airlock. That's a good sign. Don't be afraid, but that means that it's working. This is why we highly recommend this type of lid versus a thick paint lid from Home Depot. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell all notification. We will be uploading new videos weekly. You don't want to miss it. We are going to start with the basic kindergarten level and work our way up. As we progress, you can grow with us. It's an easy way to start at the bottom and work your way up and find out all the fundamentals, mash, moonshine recipes, and everything will be included at the blog also.